Well, hello. Welcome to Orchid Blooms podcast. Welcome back, bloomers. My name is Orchid Brown, and I am your host with Orchid Blooms podcast. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and X at Orchid Eye Brown. After my previous podcast episode on spiritual warfare, I decided to do an episode on spiritual blocks. I know I have experienced spiritual blocks before, but I have never looked into it. So this podcast episode, we will be covering this topic today. A lot of people would connect spiritual blocks to the 7 chakras. I am sure I have mentioned these famous 7 in a podcast episode before. And I believe the podcast episode was Third Eye. So if you are interested in learning a bit more about the 7 chakras, I would encourage you to go and listen to the Third Eye podcast episode. But let's review it, the 7 chakras, before we continue on to talk about spiritual blocks. So the 7 chakras are the crown chakra, third eye chakra, throat chakra, heart chakra, solar plexus chakra, sacral chakra, and root chakra. Having these chakras being blocked can have you feeling stuck. I detail in the Third Eye episode how to unblock your chakras. So go and listen to this podcast episode, and I hope it helps. An important spiritual block that a lot of people experience is feeling stuck. I have always summed it up to just feeling exhausted whenever I feel stuck. We give ourselves to our jobs. We are dealing with stress every day, all day, and we are just going through the motions. We don't think, we just do the same routine every day. Plus, we have family and they want attention too. They want your attention. What sleep? When do we have time for that? We don't even have time for ourselves. So yeah, I feel that being tired or exhausted can lead to feeling stuck, but there could also be an alternative thought, which is that it's a spiritual block. With lack of sleep, not eating properly, and no real time for ourselves, of course, we are going to have a lack of motivation. We may even question our purpose in life. Answering the hard questions of where we are going could make us depressed. When we can't answer those hard questions due to the fact that we're exhausted, are we making the right decisions? Why were we so impulsive with most of our decisions? So many questions that are left unanswered. And of course, if we're feeling stuck and we just can't think and we're just so exhausted, of course we're going to experience depression. And depression is a symptom of spiritual blocks. A second block would be holding on to fear-based beliefs. This can hinder our spiritual growth because some of us fear judgment or consequences for making a bad decision. We create unnecessary barriers for ourselves to hold ourselves back. It took me some time to get out of fear-based beliefs, wondering how people are going to see me, wondering, what people are going to say about me. This is something that, you struggle with coming out of high school because that's what you did in high school. You were judged by other students for how your hair looked, how you dress, all of those sorts of things. When your mom show up at school and start acting a fool, for some kids, that's judgment. And the consequence of that is that everyone's looking at you funny and laughing and pointing at you. So we carry that into our adult life. And so it took me years to just stop caring. If I'm making a decision that is best for me, I don't care anymore what anyone thinks. I don't care if you don't like my boundaries. I don't care if you believe that the decision that I'm making for myself is not a good decision. I have one life to live. I'm not going to get all the answers right. I'm not going to make all the right decisions all the time. We're human. We can make mistakes and learn from it. That is what life is about. And so if you don't like a decision that I'm making, that's fine. Take a step back. Go live your own damn life. Mind your own business. And I will do that myself. I am going to go and take a risk, and I'm going to try. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if it does work out, I'm going to be very happy. So I tend to, that is something that has allowed me to break away from the fear-based belief, especially in regards to judgment. When it comes to consequences, I'm smart enough to know that if I make a decision that I know is wrong and it does not serve me and it does not serve a lot of people, that I'm going to get consequences for it. Karma is a bitch. So I have made some mistakes in my past, and I knew from beginning to end that there was consequences for this. And even though I struggled with the consequences when I did get the consequence, I still deep down inside of me knew that I deserved it, because I had made a choice that had bad consequences for me specifically, and it hurt other people. So I kind of had to just take responsibility for that and be accountable to myself and to God. So I have been through these things, and I just want to let you know that fear-based beliefs is something that a lot of people struggle with. It's a lot. It can be a lot. And if you find yourself focusing on the perceptions of what other people are thinking and, what they're going to say about you and how they're going to judge you, then you won't live. You will live in fear. You won't do anything because you're scared of what people are going to say and how people are going to look at you. But honestly, if they were your real friends, they'd understand that anyone can make those mistakes. Just because you haven't doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be put in a situation or a position where you have to make that same decision one day. And it might not be the best decision that you make during that period of time, but just remember, while you were judging somebody else, someone else is around the corner waiting to judge you. So now the third spiritual block would be religious focus to experience growth. I joined a religious group when I felt stuck. And you're going to go through a period of feeling stuck many times during your lifetime. It's not just one time thing. I experienced a certain type of growth from being a part of that religious community, but I hit the ceiling and felt stuck again while in that religious community. Why? Because I was too busy trying to become a sheep. Because again, if you are going to be in a religious community, you have to understand that as people, you have to be a sheep. And of course, there has to be one shepherd, and that one shepherd is supposed to lead you to salvation, like they did in the Bible. But again, we're not in Egypt and we're not all enslaved. So I assume that leading the sheeps out of sin, I guess, would be something that these religious communities are trying to do. Except those sins that they're trying to lead a lot of people in these religious community out of seems to be an epidemic. It just keeps popping up, and that, and it multiplies and it grows and all of that stuff. So I guess, having all that sin kind of keeps that shepherd's pocket full. So I disagreed with the fear-based narrative, the need to not be a human being that make mistakes and can learn from it. I did not want to obsess about my sins and beat myself up. That can lead to depression and low vibration, and you start to lack value in yourself because of this. It's just not wise. When they are pushing in the religious community to forgive, not ourselves, but other people, as if that is the only level of forgiveness that matters. I struggle with that because we need to forgive ourselves first. And a lot of people, in the religious community would feel that, oh, if you bring it to God and you repent, you will be forgiven, which is true. But then you go out and make the same mistake again because, oh, my slate is clean because I confessed to God. I don't have to really stop doing what I'm doing, just keep repenting. That's not forgiveness. And a lot of people feel that, you go and you ask for forgiveness for hurting somebody and then turn around and do it again. That's not how forgiveness works. It just shows that you're a toxic person and you need to be out of people's lives. But I knew while I was in the religious community that one of my biggest struggles was forgiving myself. I could forgive others with restriction. As I mentioned before, a lot of people like to ask for forgiveness and turn around and do it again. So the restriction is you do it again. I'm going to make sure that your ass is going to go home with your tail between your legs when I'm done with you. You know what I mean. Forgiveness comes with boundaries. And a lot of people say that, you can forgive, but you don't forget the horrible things you do to them or things that they don't appreciate. So you can get the forgiveness, but understand that forgiveness comes with boundaries. I learned about what I truly valued and found my identity in my beliefs. So there was a lot of positive in that aspect. I found that I needed to focus on my own exploration after, realizing that I felt stuck. So that was technically the next best decision for me, was to go off on my own and truly create and build a relationship, not as a group, but as an individual with the Spirit, because I wanted to experience more growth. I did not want to be the standard image of a woman of God who just seemed perfect with no struggles, because choosing Jesus means no struggle. You have no aspirations except to be that perfect image for the community. And I guess that's the next goal, is to kind of be that image that the flock or the sheeps idolize being. We're not supposed to idolize anyone, right? Right. With your clique of women that everyone can aspire to be. You know what I'm talking about if you've been in these religious communities. And yeah, you know what I mean. So the point that I'm trying to make is that religious focus to experience growth is good up until a point. At some point, you will get stuck again if your flock, your sheep that you're walking with, has decided to stagnate at a certain level and they're not pursuing growth anymore. It's just about, being the popular kids, popular sheeps. They have the whitest fur as they stroll through the religious community. Anywho, I shouldn't have said that, but that's literally, my mind is very imaginative. So let's move on to the next spiritual blocks, which are limiting beliefs. So basically what that means is how we talk to ourselves and about ourselves to others can be categorized as limiting beliefs. I struggle with self-doubt. Practice makes perfect is the saying that, we grew up with. So after years of allowing these thoughts and being self-deprecating to avoid attention, limiting beliefs became my norm. Now I am focused on working on that bad behavior that I've put so much practice in making perfect, it has been a struggle, especially during my spiritual warfare that I recently talked about in a previous podcast episode. Everywhere I turn, someone is trying to tell me I am not good enough, in hopes that I take on that projection and start making mistakes. The fight that I had to put up to rebuke that narrative in my mind and give it as, and make sure to give it right back to those people who are trying to project that in my life, was painful, and it was repetitive, and it got so annoying that I just became very angry. But I'll keep fighting till my last breath. And that is something that the spiritual warfare that I've been going through has taught me. As I said in a previous podcast episode, we need to be relentless. Relentless. I want you to be so annoyed by me as you annoy me. I want to torture you the same way you tortured me. So I'm going to be relentless in rebuking what you are trying to project into my life until you're sick of me. Just sick of me. But I do understand that some people don't like seeing other people grow. They don't like seeing your growth. It is their purpose in your life to keep you stagnated, to keep you stuck, to keep you thinking that you are not good enough. That is their purpose, especially in others that they see them as beneath them. In their mind, you shouldn't have the strength or the power to break free of their imaginary influence and reject their purpose in your life. When those thoughts arise out of nowhere, I have to say out loud the narrative I truly believe about myself. And yes, it comes off as me telling them off, but you know what? I want you to be as uncomfortable as you are making me with your projections. So these are the things that I've been working on since last year. So trying to change my limiting beliefs to positive beliefs. And I'm going to give you three examples, and I hope you practice this daily until practice makes perfect. So the first example is I am not good enough was changed to I am good enough. I am just in the wrong environment. Boom. Second one is I am not smart enough. That was changed to I am very intelligent and I will not allow anyone to tell me different. I have nothing to prove. Boom, boom. Number 3, my life will never change. Was changed to my life will change for the better, starting with my mindset and letting go of what does not serve me. Boom, bashaka, buka, 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 boom, boom, boom. So these are some of the examples, but some days, these limiting beliefs are so loud and so hard to fight back against. And I have to blast the music, those positive music that have you singing positive things and, changing your emotions inside of you, just to give you a mental break, because at this point your mind is just going crazy, like it's on Red Bull or something. And that is okay. If you have those days, that is okay. Just try to distract yourself with something that is positive, something that you like doing, and get out of that funk. For me, it's music. Sometimes I put on some old school music, Louis Armstrong, maybe some Frank Sinatra, or even drop some Nicki Minaj. I know I'm all over the place when it comes to music, but certain types of music and lyrics, really get me going. So yeah, for me, it's music. For you, it might be something else. So I hope you find that for those truly hard days where your mind is just being aggressive with you and going, no, this is what we're going to think. We're disgusting. Just do what you got to do. A lot of things I mentioned in a previous podcast episode are strategies of liberation and spiritual growth, such as reading the word, prayer, fasting, shadow work, self-actualization, and meditation. I spend a lot of time in silent contemplation. It helps me to organize my thoughts and be less impulsive due to sensitivity or just raw emotions. Impulsivity is your enemy in spiritual warfare. The spiritual building blocks against spiritual blocks are faith, hope, and love. And as I mentioned in a previous podcast episode, reading the word and prayer does help with the faith and hope. The shadow work does help with faith and hope. Self-actualization does the exact same thing. So that list that I provided you does help with faith and hope. Meditation does help with getting you back to a balanced place where you can process anything. I currently struggle with the love part. Even though I love myself, I can't say I love those people that are projecting. I just can't show love to them. They've gotten on my nerves. So when you are enduring spiritual attacks, it is difficult to find love when you are at war. You feel as though you can't show weakness. Love is viewed as a weakness. If you are emotional, you lose. Spiritual warfare is about breaking your resolve to make you give up and comply to the thoughts that you are not good enough. Things will never change. You have no power. So why change that? Submit to your bad habits and you will struggle less. And honestly, a lot of people have gone backwards and said, listen, this growth thing is too hard. I just can't. I need a break. I need some peace. And when they go right back to their bad behaviors, even though they're stuck and they're unhappy and they're miserable, guess what? They're not struggling anymore. They're not dealing with spiritual attacks and going through spiritual warfare. It just means that they won't be able to reach spiritual enlightenment or awakening due to that, and they're willing to sacrifice that so that they can stop being attacked every single day. So yes, you struggle less if you decide to back off and submit to your miserable life. I don't mean to say it like that, but let's be real. You're stuck and you want to stay that way because, again, you won't have to deal with any burdens. You don't have to feel all these emotions and process through them, go through your childhood traumas and bring up things that you have not healed, which is a part of your shadow work, to get to the light at the end of the tunnel, right? So yes, you are choosing to stay in your miserable life. This growth business is just too difficult. So just give up. You will never win. This will never end if you keep going. Again, I am relentless. I don't care what you throw at me. I am going to keep coming for you. So maybe that's just who I am as a person. And not very many people are able to do that. And maybe that is the reason why a lot of people give up. But unfortunately, you have to be relentless. Just like you want to chase your dreams, you have to be relentless. And eventually, you will get to the end of the tunnel and see the light. Honestly, the last part has been haunting, but I keep going in hopes that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, a warm light at the end of the tunnel, and I will find some peace finally, getting to the level, spiritual level that I need to be to satisfy my desire to grow and be the best version of myself. But I'm not there yet. So I need to keep fighting. I need to keep being relentless. We need to develop our beliefs, attitude, values, and behaviors to empower us. I am currently in the part of my spiritual journey where I need to have the insight about the new level that I'm currently walking in, because I do feel like I am in a new atmosphere, a new field. I need to learn how to navigate at this level. And if you don't learn how to navigate at the level that you're at, you'll find yourself falling backwards and falling back into bad behaviors and feeling stuck all over again. Now that I'm in this new space where I have gone up a level and just didn't realize it because the Holy Spirit told me, you're up now, you're good. Now you need to maintain this level until it's become a part of you. And it's difficult because I don't have the insight. So that's where I'm at in this journey. But I have to also try to make sure that I don't make the mistakes that will bring me backwards and push me back down a few levels in my spiritual journey. So yeah, it's the insight that I'm really working on right now, is learning how to navigate the new spiritual level that I'm at, with all the distractions and noise. And of course, that is coming from the enemy. They don't want you to find that insight. They don't want you to learn how to navigate at your new level. Give up your blessings already. You don't deserve it. Just get back down here and roll around with the rest of the pigs in the mud, right? I need to catch the lessons that I am supposed to learn. It is important. So I guess I'll be meditating, in hopes to get that insight and to learn how to navigate where I'm at right now. But I'm going to start with what has always worked best for me when I'm trying to figure out where I'm at, what space I'm in, and how to navigate. I usually find that cleaning clears my mind. So I won't miss the lesson for my new level, the level that I'm in right now. And I'm loving it. I can't operate in the old ways at a new level. The way that I've handled things in the past is for the old me. And so I need to grow, or at least understand how to communicate at this new level. So that's where my spiritual journey is currently at. Don't get it twisted. I'm still in my spiritual warfare. I'm telling you, they're coming at me from all ends, and I just want to slap each and every one of them. But you can't do that. So I'm going to need to find new insight here. How do I handle all these bitches? So that is really where I'm at right now, and I'm trying to figure that out. So I definitely wanted to share that aspect with you. Hopefully, once I figure that insight that I need to know, maybe I'll be able to share that in another podcast episode sometime in the future. But I feel like this part of the journey is going to take me just being still for a moment and just absorbing the changes and the new that I'm experiencing, rather than rushing through it, because then I won't learn anything if I do that. So I do want to not explain, but kind of tell you about something someone said to me Saturday. Saturday. I happened to be talking to a girl who's very spiritual. Like she was raised in spirituality, and she knows a lot about witchcraft and voodoo and things like that. And not that she knows how to do it. Don't get me wrong. She's not that girl. But she believes that these things are real and it does happen to people. And so I like talking to her because she does have a different insight on this topic when it comes to spirituality. And while we were talking, I was just kind of telling her about how this entity came to me in a dream. I think it was like Friday night. So I was in bed, and all of a sudden this entity came and wrapped its arms around me, and I felt paralyzed. And I just recalled wondering what is going on, but I feel like I was half conscious and half not conscious. So I'm not really sure if what was happening was in a dream, but I can feel it in my body. Like I felt awake when I felt this person or this entity, this dark entity, because the hands were so dark. And I told her that in that moment, like I couldn't move and I couldn't fight back. So I just remembered thinking in my head, like, you need to tell this MFer to get the fuck out. And I was trying to open my mouth, but it wouldn't open. And I just remember just getting really angry. And I felt my mouth open, like my lips, not my teeth. And then my voice came through my teeth saying, get the fuck off me. And then it just let me go and ran off. And it took me a while to get back to sleep. And I was telling her about this and she was like, holy shit. And she was sharing a story of when she was a little girl back home in her country. I think she's from Haiti. And she said that, you know, her sister was saying that there was this dark entity that was like laying over her and like looking at her, and she was like paralyzed and she couldn't move and she couldn't say anything, but she was in the bed with her sister. And I was like, did you see the entity? And she was like, no, I didn't. She said, I was wide awake and I was looking through the window, but she didn't see any dark entity. But her sister woke up the next day and told her that she was paralyzed and this dark thing was just over her. And she was like, I didn't see it. I didn't know. But she believed in it because she's heard these stories so many times from so many people and kids. They usually come after children is what she says. So she says she was really surprised that as an adult, I was dealing with that. And I said, well, no, because I remember speaking to my brother, and my brother said that he, you know, would have dreams where he was just completely paralyzed and he couldn't move, he couldn't scream, he couldn't do anything. But I don't recall him saying that he saw any dark entity. So I was talking to her about this. And, you know, as we were progressing in the conversation, I said to her that, you know, I was so happy that I was able to at least move my lips and shout through my teeth. She was like, listen, nobody that she knows who have ever experienced what I have experienced on Friday night has ever been able to speak or move. She said, even though your body couldn't move, for you to have been able to say that is crazy. It's just not possible. So she said, you know, that to her was an indication that I'm in a different level spiritually to be able to fight back with my words. And I said to her, well, you know, as I was reading the word, the Bible says, you know, if you speak it and cast them out, it'll go, right? If Jesus can look at some pigs and like cast out demons out of a man on the street to put into pigs, why can't I tell an evil entity who is trying to harm me to get the fuck out? If Jesus could do it, why can't I? So we were laughing about it. And she was looking at me like, wow, like I've never heard anyone doing this. And she grew up with people experiencing this, and not one of them were able to do what I did. And so that kind of prompted this podcast episode to talk about the new levels of spirituality, because I had not known that I had stepped up a level until talking to her about certain things that I'm experiencing in the spiritual, you know, dimension or realm, and how I got out of these types of situations. And she was like, whoa. So, you know, she says, she's like, we were talking about monitoring spirits, and I was telling her about flies. And I was like, you know what? I see flies on my balcony all the time, but they've never come into my home. And I said, Friday night, prior to that entity coming after me while I was sleeping, a fly got into my apartment. But the fly kept chasing me, kept, you know, landing on my legs, my arm, my head, until finally I got mad and I got the fly, finally beat the shit out of it. I've never pounded a fly so hard. I'm like, how dare you come into my home? Disgusting. I bet you're on some dog shit outside before you came in here with your dirty hands. Sorry about that, but that's how aggressive I was telling her about this, because I was like, ew, I'm like a germaphobe at this point. So how dare you bring that disgusting hands in here? And she was laughing at me, and I said, you know, I know that there's people out there who are wishing the worst for me. They notice that I'm growing and I am letting these people go because they don't serve me. I am not going to stay in the past with you, my dear. I'm going to walk into my new self. I'm going to walk into my new level and my new prosperity. I will leave you behind because you do not serve me. You never did when I was there. So I was telling her this and I said, for the fact that this entity came, I felt like someone sent it to me. And she said, most likely someone did send it to you, especially since you've never experienced this before. But she also feels that, there are certain negative energies and things that are being sent to me as well. But she wanted me to walk away from our conversation with one thing. And I said, what's that? And she said, well, whatever they're sending to you, not just this entity, but just the negativity or spell works or anything that they're sending after me. Because again, if you speak it, that is that is considered witchcraft. Just like gossiping is considered witchcraft, you can speak death into people's lives. So whatever they're speaking into my life from far away, because I gave them the boot, she was saying to me that the spells or whatever they're sending to me is my old self, my old life. And so that is why I'm not affected as much with what they could be doing. So again, sending an entity might be like a step up from what they were doing before, because they were casting these spells on me as my old version of myself. And when she said it, it was like my mind was blown because I never thought about that. They know me from who I was before, right? So now that I've kind of escaped that and walked into the new me at my new level, whatever they're sending isn't working. So what's the next best thing? Send a dark entity to do what they did, Friday night. And then Saturday I talked to her about it and my mind's like, whoa. So I am just going to keep climbing these spiritual levels. I am going to keep hitting these new spiritual levels, and I'm going to leave what does not serve me behind. You can send whatever entity you want to send. My dear, I promise you my mouth will open and I will tell that bitch to get the fuck out. And they will. So that concludes this podcast episode. I hope this was educational and informative for you all. I wish you luck on your spiritual journey, and I hope that what I do share gives you a wow moment or a ha-ha moment if you have experienced some of the things that I have shared. Thank you for supporting the Orchid Blooms podcast. Please subscribe, follow, or rate and leave a comment or a review on the podcast or the episode itself. We also have social media pages, so subscribe and follow. First one is Orchid Bloom's YouTube channel, The Ambitious Obsession Network on Facebook, at The Ambitious Ops on Twitter, at The Ambitious Net on Instagram. Don't forget to share your favorite podcast episode with your family and your friends, and I hope you have a splendid day.